So first topic we would be starting with, and that is related to the RBI monetary policy. Recently RBI reviewed its monetary policy. So we will first examine this topic, RBI's monetary policy review or monetary policy. ठीक है. So recently what happened that RBI in its this bi-monthly review reviewed this whole its monetary policy this framework or mechanism, and under this there are certain the important points which RBI come up with. So we will be going into the highlights or the key points that has been put forth by the RBI in its recent policy review. But before that, let's first understand that what is the mechanism of monetary policy in India, how it is being this managed. Fine. So firstly let's start with this monetary policy framework, then we will be coming back to the latest updates. So firstly, monetary policy framework. जो करंट मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी फ्रेमवर्क है वो इवॉल्व कैसे हुआ ओवर द टाइम. सो वी see that in 2016 itself the government of India made an amendment to the RBI Act 1934. RBI Act जो है 1934, government brought an amendment to this very act in 2016. For what purpose? Basically to provide a framework for the operation of monetary policy in the country with a legislative mandate, or you can say the statutory backing. So this monetary policy जो committee you can say later on we will see, और जो ये framework है, this is a statutory body, remember this, because this has evolved through an amendment by the legislative procedure or by the parliament. Fine. So under this a section 45ZB of this very act was amended, and under this section MPC, that is Monetary Policy Committee, was provided for operating or for the operationalization of monetary policy of the country. ठीक है. So as the name suggests, monetary policy, so what would be its objective? Firstly, so simple, in simple terms जो objective और the aim जो था इसका, that is objective, or you can say the aim or goal of monetary policy framework. ठीक है. So basically क्या होगा, you might have come across many a times that we talk about that जो भी there are two broad objectives, and that is firstly setting the policy rate or policy repo rate, because policy rate is basically the repo rate, one and same thing. We will see what exactly it is it. ठीक है. So based on it was provided that setting the policy rate or the repo rate based on the current assessment of the macroeconomic, you can say, situation in the economy in order to manage the liquidity with twin objectives. First that is inflation targeting, and second that is the growth objective. So RBI को दो mandates दिए गए. First is the primary mandate though is controlling inflation, but you can say the complementary mandate is to focus on the growth aspect as well. ठीक है. So all this happened, remember, on the recommendations of an important committee, and it is called the Urjit Patel Committee. I hope you are aware that Urjit Patel is former RBI governor. Urjit Patel Committee 2014 में ये बनी थी, and on the basis of this committee's recommendation government amended, and also on the basis of this very committee we have currently that we call it monetary policy committee, ठीक है, which basically runs the monetary policy of the country. Fine. So we have a monetary policy committee on the one side, and also we have another set of framework, we call it FIT, that is flexible interest targeting. So what are these two? We'll see each one by one. So let's first focus on monetary policy committee. Let's say it a monetary policy committee, that is MPC. I said this is based on Urjit Patel's committee recommendations, remember. ठीक है. सो बेसिकली इसमें जो स्ट्रक्चर है इस कमेटी की अगर हम बात करें, सो स्ट्रक्चरली देयर आर 6 मेंबर्स. फाइन. 6 मेंबर्स में जो 3+3 का रेशियो है, दैट इज 3 वुड बी इनसाइडर्स, 3 वुड बी आउटसाइडर्स. मीन्स 3 would be from the RBI itself. First is your governor, who would be the ex officio chairman of this very committee. Ex officio chairman, that is by the virtue of his position, since he is a governor, so obviously he would be the chairman of this committee as well. Secondly, deputy governor, one deputy governor out of 4. Deputy governor basically responsible for monetary policy operations. Deputy governor responsible for monetary policy operations. Since there are 4 deputy governors in the RBI and 1 governor, so everybody has different sets of responsibilities, and one of the deputy governor looks after the monetary policy operations. So whoever happen to be the in charge of this monetary policy, he would be the part of this very committee. Fine. And out this 1, 2, and the third person is basically an executive director of RBI, nominated by Central Board of RBI. Remember, executive director of RBI nominated by Central Board of RBI. Fine. So these are the 3 persons from the RBI side, and the rest 3 to be nominated by government, nominated by government. ठीक है, nominated by, you can say, government. Obviously these 3 persons would be you can say eminent in their field, especially in the, you can say, economics, finance, or you can say this banking. Fine. Experience होनी चाहिए in particular fields में. So these persons would be nominated by the government. So 3 insiders, 3 outsiders, total 6 members. Fine. Next is inflation FIT, that is flexible interest targeting. Flexible interest targeting. So what is it? Remember, this is also provided under the monetary policy mandate, that through an agreement between the government and RBI, this has been mandated that RBI, and recently it happened as well, that's why I am talking about this. RBI has been given the mandate of maintaining or controlling inflation in the economy in the range of this 4%. Just a second. That there should be ideal inflation should be the 4% in the economy, but ideal inflation should be 4%, but it has also been given a leverage with a band of plus minus 2%. That is, inflation could go up to max of 6%, maximum it could hit up to 6%, or the minimum it could go to 4 minus 2, that is 2%. So you can say that in our country inflation should be in this range between 2 to 6%, and the ideal one is 4%. Fine. So this is mandate. Currently you might have, when you read newspapers, you might have seen that recently we are not just India, but every major economies of the world facing, this substantial rate of inflation. Fine, which is breaching its target. Even in India, this has been, this maximum limit of 6% has been, breached for the last 3-4 quarters. Now there is a catch in this particular FIT, that is flexible interest targeting mechanism, and here is that under this, remember I said कि 6% की जो लिमिट है उसको ब्रीच की गई है अराउंड 3-4 क्वार्टर से, एंड नेक्स्ट 1.5 ईयर भी ये टारगेट ऐसे ही चलेंगे. I mean, this was the highlights of the latest review, monetary policy committee review, that for the next 15 months we are going to see that inflation in the country is above 6%. Fine. Under this, since this is an agreement between government and the RBI, so when you make agreement, such kind of agreements, you also make, the other society, this other body accountable as well, because what would happen if this target is not being met? So for that purpose, under this FIT mechanism only, we have one more, this point, and that is which makes the RBI accountable to the government, and that is that if this mandate of 6% is being breached for the subsequent 3 quarters, for the not Q3 but 3 quarters back to back. Fine. Out of 4 quarters, if this under FIT, if out of 4 quarters in 3 quarters the inflation rate in the economy, is more than 6%, that is a maximum limit or maximum this benchmark, then the RBI is accountable to the government. Remember, out of 4 quarters, successively 3 quarters ऐसा होना चाहिए जिसमें आपके inflation rate जो economy में है वो 6% से ज़्यादा हो, 6% से ज़्यादा हो. Then what would happen? Now the RBI will be submitting in writing to the government. Now here comes the accountability rules. So RBI would be accountable to the government, giving in writing that why it happened, why this figure of 6% limit has been breached subsequently for the next, for the 3 quarters or more. First thing, and secondly, it has to also submit that what would be the course of action, that how it is going to course of action to bring it down, bring the inflation in its mandated range, that is below 6%. Fine. So course of action क्या होगा, and then how long will it take, कितना टाइम लगेगा इसको रेंज में लाने के लिए, how long will it take? I mean, this course correction is going to take how much time? So these are 3-4 questions that need to be addressed by the RBI to the government, fine, giving in writing if the economy breaches the maximum of 6% limit of inflation rate for the subsequent 3 quarters. Fine, that is for ठीक है 9 months. Fine. After this, so this has happened recently because we have already, recently RBI given this in writing to the government, because if you see after pandemic, subsequently we are breaching this target of inflation. I mean, since in a pandemic from the last 1.5 years, 2 years, this has not been met. So it has already passed, this surpassed around 3 quarters, and currently we are in 4th quarters where still the inflation rate is hovering above 6%. Fine. So this scenario recently came up in the news as well. So that's why this was essential for us to understand. Fine. So remember, monetary policy committee is one thing, flexible interest targeting is another thing. The government is giving certain flexible target, inflation target to the RBI to manage the or monitor the inflation rate in the economy. Chalo. So what are the current highlights? I mean, what are the recent findings of this committee or the review? So recent highlights क्या हैं? So far as there are 2-3 things, I mean the core things which is you generally find in the RBI reports, and that is first is GDP forecast, that what would be the GDP of India in the next, you can say the quarters, or would be even what would be the GDP of India for the entire this financial year, fiscal year 23. Fine. So for financial year, you can say this for 2022-23, that is financial year, that is fiscal year 23, you can say the target or the forecast that has been made by the RBI is 6.8%. That is for the fiscal year 23, that is 6.8%. Earlier it was around 7%, 6.9%. It has rather reduced from 7%. ठीक है? So RBI ने यहाँ पे कम किया because earlier it was 7% for the this fiscal year 23, for the current year that is going on. But World Bank just few days back revised its growth forecast of India, and that is it revised and it gave certain 6.9%, predicted 6.9% for the financial year or the fiscal year, you can say 2023. Fine. From earlier कितना था? It has revised from earlier 6.5%. ठीक है? So it looks that our fundamentals, macroeconomic fundamentals are quite strong, and somewhere we are going to achieve the how much the GDP growth rate. GDP का हम last topic में बात कर चुके हैं. So I hope you would be able to correlate what we are discussing here today. Fine. So somewhere we see that India is going to register its growth rate in this range, 6.5% to 7% most probably. Fine. We can take the range. This is first highlight or the first review, this first outcome of the review. Fine. उसके बाद inflation and interest rate की बात करें. I hope you have read in the newspapers that RBI has increased its policy repo rate by how much? How much? So it has increased its policy repo rate by 35 basis points, BPS, or you can say 0.35%. Fine. Basis points बोलते हैं इसको, 35 basis points, or you can say simply 0.35%, and now it is at current जो policy repo rate आपका है that is 6.25%. Policy repo rate is basically the rate at which RBI lends to the commercial bank in the country. or in the economy, 6.25% currently after revising or increasing by 35%. This is your policy rate, you can say, or repo rate, at the rate at which RBI lends to the commercial banks. ठीक है, so this has been revised. Then inflation and interest rates की अगर हम बात करें तो it has again forecasted the headline inflation. Headline inflation basically newspaper में भी ये word आप लोग सुनते हो. Headline inflation is, you can say, the total inflation. Another concept is core inflation. When you deduct or subtract the fuel and food and fuel inflation from your headline inflation, then we get the core inflation. So headline inflation is somewhere going to be 6.7% for this year, I mean for this fiscal year. This has been forecasted by the RBI. Fine. So this is just an estimate or forecast, but as I said, the biggest issue is not this figure, but the biggest worry for us is that this figure is, remember, above 6%. ये 6% से ज़्यादा है, that is the maximum limit under flexible interest targeting. Fine. So this is already 15 from the last 12-14 months we are registering more than 6% of inflation rate in the economy, and now again for the next 15 months we are expecting this to be above your maximum limit, that is of 6.7% somewhere for the next 15 months. After that, for getting 4%, the level of 4% of inflation in the economy, it will certainly take few more months. So we can safely say that for the next 2 years we are going to witness the somewhere this rate of inflation above 6%. Fine. So after 2 years we can see that inflation is coming back in its range, and that is from 6 to, we can even see 5 or up to 4% as well, depending on how the global economy is behaving in the next 2 years or 1.5 to 2 years. Fine. Okay. So we have talked about inflation, we have talked about GDP forecast and all, but now one more important thing that we need to understand it is why we are registering this and why we are noticing this, why we are unable to, you can say, control the inflation rate and bring it back in the range of this 6%, 2 to 6%. So there are certain issues. Remember, currently जो spike देखने को हमें मिल रहा है in prices or the inflation in the worldwide, it has become a worldwide scenario, that is basically of supply shocks. The issue is from supply shocks, supply side basically, we call it supply shocks. How? Firstly, the biggest supply shock is basically when demand is there in the economy but supply is not catching up the demand. Means in simple terms that there is a word called gestation period, that what you are demanding, a product comes in the market with a certain lag, after some time. So this is one issue. How it happened? It started, the whole story begins with your this pandemic, that is COVID-19. Since everything was shut down or locked down, and during that period we have seen that pandemic COVID-19, you can say, with the onset of COVID-19 this story begins. So we see the supply somewhere, demand was there but supply was lesser than demand, because supply was not able to catch up because of industries को बंद करनी पड़ी थी oxygen's demands को meet करने के लिए and all that. Alongside we have seen the lockdowns, worldwide lockdowns. Fine. So because of that disruption, that major disruption, one of the major disruptions in the history so far. Fine. So out of that, the fall जो उसका side effect हुआ और implication हुआ, that is in the form of demand is there but supply is not there. It ultimately, when you demand, whenever you demand more and supply is not matching or catching up the demand, then obviously price will go up. The second reason is the current one you can see, and that is the so-called war between Russia and Ukraine. Because remember, these two countries are, major players, especially in the, so far your food supply is concerned, food security is concerned, because Ukraine somewhere, Russia somewhere contributes around 20% of the wheat, global wheat production, exports, basic global, you can say wheat trade. Ukraine somewhere contributes, has a major share, especially in the oils, vegetable oils, you can say, or the edible oils like palm oil and all. Fine. So these are the two, substantial players in the world market in terms of, as far as we are concerned with the food supply. Fine. So because of the disruptions, or you can say blockade, थोड़े time के लिए वहाँ पे, though this was brokered, an agreement was brokered by the United Nations. So after that, supply normal हो रही है, but still we see that the situation is not that normal. So because of that, again, crunch in supply उतनी नहीं आ रही है यहाँ से products exports नहीं हो रहे. So because of that, again we see that demand is far greater than supply. So resultantly we have again inflationary trend. Again एक यहाँ पे pandemic में ये भी issue था, supply chain. We have seen that supply chain constraints आप लोगों ने सुना होगा, because since the whole, this global village, you can say, or the global economy was, you can say ruled by very limited number of countries. The major one is China. So on the onset of this COVID pandemic, what happened, this somewhere started with China only. So China ने सब कुछ बंद कर दिया, and because of the dependency of world including India, so supply chain constraint की वजह से कहीं ना कहीं हमारे को वर्ल्ड वाइड काफ़ी नुकसान हुआ, and because of that again this supply constraint resulted in spike in the prices globally, not just in India. Fine. And जो पॉलिसी रेपो रेट इंक्रीज करने की बात देख रहे हो आप ग्लोबली, इवन कि फेडरल रिजर्व यूएस के भी बढ़ा रहे हैं ये भी, एंड इवन कि वी हैव सीन रिसेंटली रिवाइज्ड अगेन policy rate. So policy rate is a mechanism that how you control the inflation in the economy. Basically, when we say that RBI has raised its policy repo rate by 35 basis point and currently it is at 6.25%, it simply means now that पहले के कंपैरिजन में अब अगर कोई बैंक बोरो करता है आरबीआई से, तो इट विल हैव टू पे मोर इंटरेस्ट रेट्स ऑन दैट पर्टिकुलर अमाउंट. फाइन. सो इसकी वजह से क्या होगी कि जब आप इंटरेस्ट रेट बढ़ा देंगे तो ऑब्वियसली एज अ लेमन यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड देयर आर टू पर्सन्स. सपोज यू आर गोइंग you have approached a bank for borrowing certain amounts and the interest rate that you see कि आज 5% था, कल 5.5 हो गया, 6 हो गया, और आफ्टर 1 month you are going approaching the bank for the same amount, you see कि जो रियल इफेक्ट उसमें आया तो अल्टीमेटली लॉस हो रहा है आपका, बिकॉज अर्लियर यू हैव टू पे समवेयर अराउंड 5.5% एज अ इंटरेस्ट रेट, नाउ वी आर पेइंग 6.5% और 6.25%. सो ऑब्वियसली द कॉस्ट ऑफ बोरोइंग हैज increased, or now the borrowing has become quite dearer. Fine. So because of that thing, what happens, basically जो circulation of money है in economy, जो liquidity है उसको कहीं ना कहीं स्क्वीज कर लेते हैं, बिकॉज जब बोरोइंग कम होगी, बिकॉज क्रेडिट क्रिएशन का जो प्रोसेस है दैट इज ऑल टुगेदर लेड बाय द कमर्शियल बैंक्स. सो अगर कमर्शियल बैंक्स को पैसा कम मिल रहा है आरबीआई से, इट मीन्स कि देयर इज जनरल रिडक्शन इन द सप्लाई ऑफ करेंसी और मनी इन द इकोनॉमी, टू विच वी रेफर टू एज अ लिक्विडिटी. सो लिक्विडिटी अगर कम हो रही है तो आपके हाथ में पैसा जनता के कम आ रहा है, and when you are getting lesser amount of money in hands, then you will be demanding lesser, and this is one of the way how we control the inflation. So we are trying basically to squeeze the demand. Fine. Demand कम करने की हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं, so that कि supply तो already shortage में है, so इतनी जल्दी because of time lag, किसी भी चीज़ को produce करने में time लगता है, so this is the only tool we are left with to increase the interest rate, so the borrowing would be more dearer, you can say, or the cost of borrowing would increase, and thereby people would demand especially the banks would demand, borrow less from RBI. When borrow, commercial banks borrowing lesser from the RBI, it means that there is a lesser, credit creation in the economy. When there is a lesser credit creation in the economy compared to the previous time, then certainly the, common man getting lesser amount of money in the hands, you can say now your purchasing power, जिसको हम economics में technically refer to purchasing power जो है आपकी कम हो गई है. And since your purchasing power has reduced now, because earlier suppose आपके पास 100 रुपए थे, अब आपके पास 80 रुपीज़ ही होंगे. So obviously somewhere आपकी जो डिमांड है, चीज़ों को डिमांड करने की जो कैपेसिटी है, that has already been reduced. And this is how we decrease the demand in order to control the inflation. Because दो ही रास्ते हैं, either सप्लाई बढ़ा के हम इसको कैचअप करा सकते हैं डिमांड को, and this is how we can tackle the, there are two sides, demand side और supply side. So supply में already constraints हैं, so only side we are left with the demand side management. So this is how, using the tools of this monetary policy, we manage the demand side, and somewhere we see that we are able to control the what demand. ठीक है. So this is one of the tools for controlling inflation in the economy. ठीक है. So these are certain, you can say, pandemic, then Russian-Ukraine war, these are certain supply shocks in the economy. ठीक है. Certain points which resulted in the supply shocks or supply constraints, and because of that we are seeing this the general inflationary trend in the economy. That is, we are going to experience the same for the next almost 2 years. Fine, 1.5 to 2 years. ठीक है. Any doubt so far? Anywhere? Anything? Yes? Anybody? कहीं कुछ समझ ना आया हो? Yes? कोई डाउट है?
No, sir.
ठीक है. चलो. So this is all about the first topic, monetary policy review. The second topic we will be taking up, and that is from international relations, you can say, that is NSA's meeting or NSA meeting with the Central Asian counterparts. So NSA's meeting, in short we can say, इंडिया के NSA एंड सेंट्रल एशिया के NSA के बीच में मीटिंग हुई है. इंडिया एंड इज काउंटर पार्ट्स प्लस सेंट्रल एशियन रिपब्लिक्स, जिसको आप कार बोलते हो. ठीक है. सो फॉर यू, योर होमवर्क इज टू अगेन लोकेट ऑन योर एटलस द सेंट्रल एशियन रिपब्लिक और सेंट्रल एशियन रीजन. बेसिकली देयर आर 5 कंट्रीज जिसके पीछे तान आता है, नॉट अफगानिस्तान, नॉट पाकिस्तान. बट अगर हम ईस्ट टू वेस्ट पहले अगर हम देखें तो हियर वी हैव दिस तुर्कमेनिस्तान, देन हियर वी हैव दिस नॉट तुर्कमेनिस्तान, दिस इज उज्बेकिस्तान, देन हियर वी हैव तुर्कमेनिस्तान, हियर ताजिकिस्तान, हियर वी हैव कजाकिस्तान. ठीक है. सबसे बड़ा एरिया जो आप देखोगे वो कजाकिस्तान की ही है. ठीक है. तुर्कमेनिस्तान, ताजिकिस्तान एंड वन वी आर लेफ्ट विद विच वन. ठीक है. यहाँ पे आपका तुर्कमेनिस्तान ही है. तुर्कमेनिस्तान. हियर वी हैव उज्बेकिस्तान, उज्बेक्स, मुगल्स, यू कैन रिकॉल, टर्क्स, तुर्कमेनिस्तान, उज्बेक, ताजिकिस्तान. Here we have one more country and that is, क्या नाम है? I think हम इसके बारे में पहले भी बात कर चुके हैं. One more important country that is किर्गिस्तान. ठीक है. So these are 5 important countries which makes up the Central Asia. Remember, Kazakhstan is just the immediate in the south of Russia, so even we call them Russian neighbors. So basically, or extended, you can say the countries of Russia only, because these all were part of this USSR, that is Soviet Republic, before its disintegration into 1991. So homework क्या है, आपने सेंट्रल एशियन रीजन को पहले लोकेट करना है एटलस पे. Alongside that there are 2 seas that you need to locate, and that is, first is Aral Sea, and second is we have Caspian Sea. ठीक है, ये 2 सीज आपने देखने हैं alongside the 5 countries location, alongside even capitals. ठीक है, फाइन. सो अराल सी अगर आप देखोगे तो इट मेक्स somewhere Kazakhstan and this Uzbekistan shares the boundary. I mean, you can find the Aral Sea at the border of Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. ठीक है. Similarly, if you see the in the maps, Caspian Sea, then Caspian Sea is borders Kazakhstan alongside Turkmenistan as well. ठीक है. So ये आपका, ये यहाँ पे अराल सी आ जाता है आपका, एंड जो आपकी what Caspian Sea है, it comes here. ठीक है, bordering Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan and not Uzbekistan, remember. ठीक है. So ये आपने लोकेट करना है. This is your homework. Map work, you can say. So remember, Central Asian republics firstly बहुत important हैं. Why? Because they are the, you can say, the storehouse of minerals, energy, alongside the fossil fuels as well. So energy के लिए, energy के अगर हम point of view से देखें, this region is quite rich. Fine. So this is one thing. Secondly, strategically important है हमारे लिए. Why? Because India basically wants to diversify the fuel dependence, you can say, or the mineral dependence. Basically the whole world is trying to diversify its supply chains after the pandemic shock, after the dependency on China that we had earlier before pandemic. So after pandemic, taking lessons from being having a concentrated in just few countries, our supply chains concentration, we are in the process to diversify. The whole world is, or the countries are trying to diversify their respective global supply and their supply chains. Because जो source of imports हैं वो हमारा ऐसा हो कि सिर्फ हम गल्फ कंट्री से ही ऑयल इंपोर्ट करते रह जाएं, हमें डाइवर्सिफाई करना पड़ेगा. बिकॉज nobody knows in international relations there are no permanent friends, no permanent enemies. Fine. It's all a matter of time and convenience. ठीक है. So this is the one region, this is one reasons, and then after this we have started focusing, though our focus has been in this region with the immediate disintegration of USSR or the Soviet Republic, you can say, in 1991. The then Prime Minister Narasimha Rao visited some of these areas even way long back in 1950s, mid of 1950s. Pandit Nehru also visited few of the countries when they used to be the parts of Soviet Republic. So we cannot say we neglected these countries, rather we had been one of the active players, but strategically हम इतने active नहीं थे. We can say that strategically we were not that active, rather passive. So what happened? Remember, currently there are this NSM meeting is coinciding with the 30th anniversary of diplomatic relations or diplomatic ties between India and Central Asian republics. Fine. These 5 countries, collectively we call them Central Asian republics. Fine. So even This meeting coincided with the 30th anniversary of diplomatic establishment of diplomatic ties between India and these 5 countries. Fine. So way back from Pandit Nehru till the current Prime Minister, we have a special focus on this, you can say, but we can say that the relations has been accelerated, you can say. Strategically it has become, now we see the active, involvement of this India with these 5 countries from 2017 onwards, you can say. So what happened that last year, this Republic Day, as we have this, culture of inviting the guests from or the heads of the different countries. So on the 26th of January 2022 only, this year only, we invited the 5 heads of, or these 5 countries, the heads of these 5 countries. Fine. But due to अभी क्या हुआ था, Omicron, again the pandemic, the corona, led by the new variant Omicron. So because of that, the heads could not, take part in India's Republic Day celebration, and they could not visit India physically. So on the 27th of January, this is not 2022, rather 2021. On 27th of January, what happened? Prime Minister of India hosted a virtual meet the very next day. Virtual meet with virtual summit rather, because when the heads of the 2 sides, meeting, we call generally a summit. So, and remember why I am saying that now the emphasis has been, yes, more vocal emphasis, because the first reason is that this was the first, heads of the government's level summit. First summit rather this was. Fine. So this is very, very important. Okay. Abhi in 2021 we had this first summit along with the Central Asian republics. So it all tells about how active we had been in our strategic relations with these countries. ठीक है? Fine. So this year has been 2022 only. Remember this 2022, this year's Republic Day only. ठीक है, 2021 में तो हमें अलग ही सिनेरियो था. So first summit 2022 में हम हेल्ड करते हैं. इसके बाद नवंबर और यू कैन से अगस्त नवंबर के आसपास अगेन वी पार्टिसिपेटेड इन अगस्त लास्ट ईयर क्या हुआ, यूएस ने विड्रॉ कर लिया अफगानिस्तान से. सो आफ्टर दैट आई होप वी ऑल आर अवेयर ऑफ द करंट सिचुएशन ऑफ अफगानिस्तान अंडर तालिबान. ठीक है. सो because these are our immediate neighbors, Pakistan, then Afghanistan. Even Afghanistan shares its border with this Tajikistan, Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan as well. So even these countries are concerned about the deteriorating, you can say, or this security situations in Afghanistan, because when you have such kind of, you can say, neighbors, then you cannot sleep peacefully. ठीक है. So because of the hostile neighbors, you can say, or the rule of Taliban sharing, Afghanistan sharing border with the 3 of the 5 republics, Central Asian republics. Also this was a headache for India as well, because even we were this apprehensive that the Taliban might Taliban might promote terrorism in the states of Jammu and Kashmir. So this is a common, you can say, that both the sets of countries, we, India as well as Central Asian republics, have one common agenda, and that is or you can say the concern, and that's related to the security. So security concern is one of the important, the common points. Further we see what are the different sets of points upon which we have discussed a lot. So this is for the time being. Remember that in 2022 January itself took the first summit hosted by the Indian Prime Minister. Okay? So this all tells about the relevance of what has been the relevance of these 5 countries in the past, and now how the things have changed over time. Okay? So before we go into the detail that what kind of relations we have with the Central Asian republics and what are the highlights of this recent NSA meetings, first of all let's start with the basic thing, and that is what is the post of NSA in India. Okay? So NSA, it is National Security Advisor. National. So remember currently कौन है? Currently कौन है? अजीत डोभाल. ठीक है? Current NSA is Ajit Doval. Remember, NSA basically is an advisor to the Prime Minister on security issues or strategic issues rather, because not just security, strategic issues. Strategic issues encompasses not just security but different sets. You can say we have political. It also involves political, economic interest alongside defense and even energy today. Energy has also become one of the important topics of geopolitics. So that's why even under strategic we count energy as well. Okay? So he is basically advisor to the Prime Minister on this strategic affairs or strategic matters, and he presides over one important body, and that is, we called it National Security Council, NSC. So he presides or chairs this body that is called National Security Council. ठीक है? ठीक? So beginning कहाँ से होती है? This office began in 1998. This is the office of NSA. It is, you can say, this office is established in the PMO itself, Prime Minister Office. ठीक है? Operates within this executive office of, you can say, PMO, that is Prime Minister's Office. Then ministry and जो NSC है, in this, who are the parts of NSC? Alongside NSA, we have the ministers of, basically जो हमने 4 ये sectors देखे, political, that is home affairs, economic, then we have the finance minister, defense, of course defense minister, energy, not energy minister, but since the topic is international or geopolitics related, so we have another set of minister, the part of this NSC, that is external affairs minister, minister of external affairs, ठीक है, or the foreign minister, you can say. ठीक है? So this is about NSC, this is about NSA, and now let's trace the history of the relations between India and Central Asia. Then we will come back to the last topic we started with in the first place, that is the highlights of the current meetings. ठीक है? So now the India and Central Asian Republics relations. Historically, how the relations progressed or evolved. So firstly, we shared the historical ties, or you can say the civilizational or cultural ties rather, with these countries. How? The number one reason is that somewhere Buddhism spread to this region to these regions from India. India Buddhism flourished into, you know, or spread into this, not just Central Asian republics, but even in China, in Sri Lanka and all these countries, and this, the beginning or the root was India. Okay? So one thing, this is historical or you can say cultural aspect. Again, you know, if you can recall, अगर history आप लोगों की होगी यहाँ तक, so Fergana Valley, an important person came to India from this Fergana Valley, and the name was Babur. So मुगल्स की अगर आप कह सकते हो कि जो ओरिजिन है दैट इज फ्रॉम फर्गना वैली, ठीक है, फाइन, अगेन लाइज इन द समवेयर इन द रीजन्स ऑफ उज्बेकिस्तान, उज्बेक, इसलिए उनको उज्बेक भी बोला जाता है, ठीक. देन वी ऑल्सो हैव हैड दिस in history. You can recall there are two important personalities, and first is Amir Khusro and second is Al-Baruni, Kitab al-Hind, the writer of. So Amir Khusro and Al-Baruni were also from this very regions, that is Central Asian republics. Fine. उसके बाद अगर आफ्टर हिस्टोरिकल टाइज की बात हम करें, देन वी ऑल्सो हैव, एंड रिमेंबर कल्चरल टाइज में इवन बॉलीवुड इज वेरी मच पॉपुलर इन दिस रीजन्स, दिस कंट्रीज. Then after that, if you talk about diplomatic ties, so first we see historical ties, then second, that is diplomatic. We have already talked about it, that we are currently celebrating the 30th anniversary of diplomatic ties between India and Central Asian republics. Fine. So India considers Central Asian countries as the hearts of Asia, because these are the parts of the Central Asia. So of course this forms the heart of whole of Asia. Okay? And they are also the members of SCO, that is Shanghai Cooperation Organization. We have already discussed in detail that currently it has 8th or 9th member would be the Iran. Okay? So even these countries are part of what? Which group? SCO. Okay? Except I think Turkmenistan is not a part of this currently. Turkmenistan is having the observer membership, not the permanent member of this SCO bloc. Fine. Next, as I said, that the common, again one important common, you know, this concern Central Asian are aware of, very much aware of, and that's why we share a common concern as well, because Central Asian republics are very much aware of the Pakistan's role in, you can say, promoting terrorism or financing terrorism or supporting terrorism. Fine. So that's why, and even we are very much aware of this fact. So this is again a point of commonality, that is a common concern. उसके बाद, since both talks about, you know, terrorism, so obviously we are the like-minded, you know, or we share the same concern, or we are like-minded in this very area, that is combating the terrorism. So we have almost similar approach in this area, that is as far as combating the terrorism is concerned. Fine. Then we can also talk about the roles in Afghanistan. जो भी क्योज और मैच चल, you know, so role of these both set of countries, that is India and CAR in Afghanistan. So I have already told you that Afghanistan shares its border with the 3 of the 5 these Asian republics. Fine. So they are quite apprehensive about the rule of Taliban in Afghanistan. Even we too are apprehensive of the same. Okay? So again, this is a common point of concern, because of that, because when we have a problem, we also want a solution. So India has been quite, you know, this strong, you can say, strongly propagated the idea of establishing peace, this peace in the Afghanistan, and even these countries wants peace because they are the immediate neighbors of the Afghanistan, and you don't want chaos or chaotic situations in or instability, you can say, in your immediate neighborhood. Fine. So both India as well as Central Asian Republic share this or have a similar approach towards combating terrorism or towards having a peaceful outcome or agreement. In this very process, in November 2021 itself, we along with the NSS of India, along with the NSN, again National Security Advisors of these Central Asian Republics, plus National Security Advisor of, you can say, Russia, plus Iran, we hosted again an important, you can say, regional dialogue on the situation in Afghanistan in November 2021 last year. Because the concern is common, so we have to find a solution as well, common solution. Next is stand on Chabahar port. So Chabahar port को इंडिया ने डेवलप किया, I mean not the Chabahar port as whole, but one of the terminals of Chabahar port. Chabahar port कहाँ पे है? Where is Chabahar port? Yes, anybody? ईरान. यहाँ पे एक टर्मिनल है जिसको इंडिया ने डेवलप किया है, एंड वी हैव taken this and we have the management of this particular terminal for the next 10 years. Fine, we had agreement with this Iran in 2015 for the same. ठीक है. So since we don't currently share good relations with Pakistan, so in order to circumvent the biggest issue, will come back to that, with India and between India and Central Asian Republics is the issue of connectivity. We don't have land based connectivity, direct connectivity. So because of बीच में पाकिस्तान आ जाता है, since पाकिस्तान से हमारे relations वैसे ही काफ़ी अच्छे हैं आजकल, so because of that, I mean अच्छे नहीं हैं, so अच्छे नहीं है इसलिए वो एक्सेस भी नहीं देता, पाकिस्तान से हमारी ट्रेडिंग भी इतनी नहीं चल रही. सो बिकॉज ऑफ दैट, बिकॉज हमारी एक्सेसिबिलिटी नहीं है थ्रू पाकिस्तान, हम अप्रोच नहीं कर सकते अफगानिस्तान को या सेंट्रल एशियन रिपब्लिक को. सो we were very much in need of this access of Chabahar port, one of the terminals of Chabahar port. So after getting this access, India, and not just India but many countries started sending food packets, these food materials or any kind of humanitarian जो भी help हो सकती थी. So we have delivered around 1 lakh tons of wheat alongside these medicines, including this COVID vaccine to Afghanistan via this port, Chabahar port, and terminal जिसको हमने basically develop किया है, that is called शहीद बेहस्ती, Shahid Behasti terminal. This is not port, remember, one of the terminals of this Chabahar port. ठीक है, Behasti. Yes, so this is one of the important terminals of the Chabahar port, and Chabahar port is very much important for having connectivity with Afghanistan, alongside having connectivity with the Central Asian Republic, circumventing the route of Pakistan. ठीक है, सो इम्पोर्टेंट है काफ़ी हमारे लिए. सो ह्यूमैनिटेरियन क्राइसिस जो हुआ अफगानिस्तान में आफ्टर दिस टेक ओवर ऑफ तालिबान, सो उस टाइम पे ये पोर्ट काफ़ी काम आया है, एंड जस्ट नॉट जस्ट इंडिया बट अराउंड फ्रॉम countries around the world, they supported or sent the you can say food materials, vaccines, medicine, whatever they could facilitate. Fine. So these are certain points of, you can say, the common concern or the common interest where we share the, you can say, we have a favorable point of view or favorable, you can say what, this outlook on these certain matters. Now coming back to that, what are the challenges in robust India Central Asia, you can say what are the challenges in in this India and Central Asian Republics relations. So far this first point I have already discussed, that is a point of connectivity, ठीक है, physical connectivity, that is direct हम land route से approach नहीं कर सकते because this Pakistan obstructionist approach, ठीक है. So Pakistan hostility and Afghanistan, you can say instability due to Taliban rules. So again we cannot approach directly, or you cannot directly go to Central Asian Republics through Pakistan or Afghanistan. So this is one point of concern or the challenge. उसके बाद politically अगर हम बात करें तो Central Asian Republics जो हैं, they are quite fragile countries and they are very much prone to terrorist or terrorism, you can say, even Islamic fundamentalism or radicalism as well. So this is again one of the issues which makes them volatile and unstable. Fine. So security issue से ये है. So because of this, because of this security concerns, many of our these companies not invest that much in these republics, private companies basically, Indian companies as far as I'm talking about. So again because of जहाँ पे security नहीं है, instability है, of course we also see that there's having unstable market as well, ठीक है. So this is one of the concerns, security होनी चाहिए, stability होगी, वहीं पे investment भी होगी. Fine. उसके बाद involvement of China. Now China की जो वो है, that is quite interesting. China is quite active, you can say rather proactive in having relations with these countries. China का जो role है, that is very very crucial. China through its BRI, that is Belt and Road Initiatives, that is focusing on road, that is roadways, and belt, that is sea routes, that is ports. So through BRI, Belt and Road Initiatives, developing the infrastructure and even you can say, so these countries are the part of firstly the BRI, first important point, and highly you can say this being the part of this quite undermines the India's influence as well, because India is the only country alongside Bhutan which are not the part of BRIs, ठीक है, and rather because one of the concern is this is violating our sovereign integrity, because it is passing through POK, that is Pakistan occupied Kashmir, one of the branches, that is CPEC, China Pakistan Economic Corridor, passing through Pakistan occupied Kashmir. So that's why we have a sovereign issue over this BRI project. That's why we are not supporting this project outrightly. ठीक है. So since these 5 countries are under the influence of China, because China is today leader, and one more example to show you that China today having around trade of $15 billion with these 5 countries, or you can say the Central Asian Republics, and we stood somewhere around just $2 billion at this. So you can say the level of that which set of countries or which country has greater leverage, ठीक है, or the influence. So obviously China is quite $50 billion, $2 billion of trade in the 2 sets of countries. So obviously China is far ahead, but we have started sooner or later we have started this summit level talks, which are obviously going to make a difference in the future. उसके बाद एक और जो मेजर इशू है, that is इनके बॉर्डर काफ़ी porous हैं, because these countries are surrounded by quite unstable countries, or you can say surrounded by this quite anti-state elements, that is terrorism or the terrorists. So of course their borders are quite porous, which makes this region quite the powerhouse of drug and money trafficking. जैसे हमने बात की थी this crescent and golden triangle की, golden triangle and golden crescent, that is related to the trafficking of drugs trafficking. So basically these countries are basically very much prone to such kinds of trafficking, be it drugs or arms you can say, or money laundering or money. ठीक है. So these are certain issues which are the roadblocks in our relations, in our robust relations with these countries. But we have started this process. We are quite focusing and we are quite active now. We are giving active focus to this particular relation between India and Central Asian Republic. So certainly we will see the positive outcomes in the near future as well. Fine. Now coming back to from where we started this topic, and that is the highlights of NSA meetings. So what happened in these meetings? So अगर की पॉइंट्स की बात करें, की पॉइंट्स ऑफ NSS meetings, so what could be the key points? So number one, as I have already mentioned that we are currently this coincided with the 30th anniversary of India and this diplomatic ties between India and Central Asian Republic. So this is one of the point to be noted. Then Afghanistan was of course the center of talks, because Afghanistan is a common you can say area of concern for both sets of countries, be it us, India or your Central Asian republics. Fine. So of course Afghanistan would be the center of talks. Then we had Afghanistan, so obviously we are discussing the security issues, security situations you can say in Afghanistan under Taliban. उसके बाद चाबहार पे भी बात हुई, because NSS ने सपोर्ट किया. इंडिया बेसिकली केम अप विद द प्रपोजल. इंडिया वांट्स की जो INSTC है, दैट इज इंटरनेशनल नॉर्थ साउथ कॉरिडोर, विच इज कनेक्टिंग रशिया with in the north with Central Asia, connecting Iran as well. Iran, this Central Asia, Iran, then you can say Russia. So from Russia to India, you can say connecting even the ports of India, port of India. So this is one of the important project, international north south corridor, INS ट्रांसपोर्ट कॉरिडोर, बेसिकली INSTC, इंटरनेशनल नॉर्थ साउथ ट्रांसपोर्ट कॉरिडोर. ठीक है. सो डायरेक्टली फ्रॉम रशिया टू इन द नॉर्थ टू गोइंग बैक टू इंडिया इन द साउथ. ठीक है. सो इंडिया वांट्स की जो चाबहार पोर्ट है उसके साथ इस पर्टिकुलर इंटरनेशनल नॉर्थ साउथ कॉरिडोर को लिंक कर दिया जाए. ठीक है. So NSS of these 5 countries have supported this move of India, linking this Chabahar port with international north-south transport corridor. ठीक है. उसके बाद और भी जो common point of discussions, जो common topics से discussions है, that is related to terrorism, that is related to new or you can say the emerging these technologies. Alongside, as we have discussed about trafficking, so of course arms, drugs, money laundering, then cyber threats. उसके बाद जो important outcome था, that was the institutionalization of mechanism. So institutionalize किया गया इस NSA talks को. अब ये हर 2 महीने में होगी एक बार, bi-monthly, fine, not bi-monthly but rather bi-annually. एक साल में 2 बार ये talks होंगे at level of NSA. बाय-एनुअली. ठीक है. NSA टॉक्स होंगे. सो इन पर्टिकुलर टॉक्स को रेगुलेट करने के लिए और एक इंस्टीट्यूशनलाइज शेप देने के लिए जो एक बॉडी हो जो रेगुलेट करे और आउटकम्स को मॉनिटर करे, उसके लिए एक सेक्रेटेरिएट बनाया जाएगा. ठीक है. सेक्रेटेरिएट इन न्यू दिल्ली. ठीक है. फॉर दिस पर्पज. So this is one of the institutional mechanism which is going to be set up in the form of secretariat to support this new mechanism or you can say the NSS meetings, ठीक है, in future alongside monitoring the outcomes as well, ठीक है. So this has been the highlights or the key points related to the NSS meetings. We have discussed about NSA, we have discussed about the India and Central Asian Republic relations. Alongside we have seen the key points of their discussions. Fine. So this ends up the second topic. Now coming back to the third, and that is, next topic is related to Wassenaar arrangement. Wassenaar arrangement. सबसे पहले आपका होमवर्क है, इफ़ यू आर अवेयर कि वैसेनार है क्या. आई मीन वैसेनार इज़ बेसिकली अ सिटी, बट ये लोकेटेड कहाँ है आप लोगों ने फाइंड करना है. वैसे इस पर्टिकुलर डिस्कशन जब हम करेंगे तो इसमें क्लू भी आपको मिल जाएगा, ठीक है. सो Wassenaar arrangement. Wassenaar arrangement है क्या? Remember, there are not just Wassenaar, but we have Australian groups, we have this MTCR, we have NSG, this not national rather, NSG is basically suppliers group, ठीक है. Nuclear supplier group, ठीक है. So all these are related to the basically the supply of either nuclear arms or conventional arms, missiles and all, ठीक है. So exports of voluntary exports control regime, they are basically, you can say. So what happened recently, remember this year is going to be very important for India, because India is going to host a number of international, you can say, going to head the number of international bodies, you can say, or the arrangements or the agreements. Fine. So first is what happened recently, the 26th plenary is basically conference of the parties, you can say, or the meetings of the parties. So 26th plenary meeting of this Wassenaar arrangement, or the parties, the members, took place in where? Vienna, that is capital of Austria. And in this, the this chair was Ireland, which handed over the chairmanship to India. So Ireland handed over the chair of Wassenaar agreement to India in the 26th plenary that took place in where? Vienna. ठीक है. So remember, India is now the chair the next year chairing this arrangement. Alongside, India is also chairing certain important, or you can say the most important international bodies, organizations, you can say. We have already discussed like G20. Fine. And even अगर हम this बाहर की बात करें तो India is currently chairing this month. India is a chair of UNSC, that is United Nations Security Council as well. ठीक है. So these are the important points जिसको हमें ध्यान रखना चाहिए, because these are the important bodies. So हमारे लिए important ये हो जाता है कि what exactly is the Wassenaar arrangement. Fine. So the story begins in the year 1996. ठीक है. Because in 1996 formally this arrangement has been established or formed in 1996. है क्या ये? Wassenaar arrangement is basically a voluntary export control regime, and that is related to the exports of arms basically. ठीक है. So voluntary export control regime है, you can write down in short notes में, like this is voluntary exports control regime. इसको full form में लिखना, otherwise बाद में याद नहीं रहेगा. So voluntary control regime formally established in the year 1996. ठीक है. Basically exchange informations on the on the transmission you can say or the exports of what? Conventional weapons and dual use technologies or the goods you can say. Now dual use क्या होता है? Dual use का जो best example है that is nuclear. Fine. That is ability. Dual use is कि ability किसी गुड की है कि वो दो different purposes के लिए use हो सकता है और multiple purposes हो सकते हैं उसके, like nuclear energy की हम जब बात करते हैं तो it could be used as nuclear fuel, you can say nuclear warheads इसे बनाए जा सकते हैं, like nuclear missiles, nuclear submarines. So this is one thing which could be used for military purpose. The second thing that could be used for civilian purpose or the peaceful purpose, and that is the nuclear energy, like Kudankulam nuclear power plants meant for civilian use, that is for generating power, that is energy or electricity. ठीक है. So since this was held in Vienna, so remember जो secretariat है इस particular Wassenaar arrangement की, that itself is located in Vienna only. ठीक है. Now important point for us is the membership, whether India is a member of this group or not, how many members are there. So remember this group has 42 members currently, and India is basically the member of, or you can say the 42nd member of this group, and became member in the year 2017. So majority of this export control regime के membership जो है वो हमें अभी बने recently, that is in 2017, 16, 18 something like that. ठीक है. 42 members हैं, India is a member of this arrangement, became member in 2017. ठीक है. Write one line that objective क्या है इस particular arrangement की और aim क्या है इसकी. So it basically aims or its mandate is to control the movement of technology, materials or equipment. The mandate is to control the technology, control the movement of technology, material or components to countries or entities which undermine, like terrorists के हाथ में ना चले जाएं ये weapons, which undermine the international security and stability, which undermines the international security and stability. Now what is plenary? So it is basically the highest decision making session or conference you can say of this body or this arrangement. ठीक है. इसमें जो भी members हैं 42 members इसमें participate करते हैं, and जो भी decision है वो consensus के through ली जाती है. ठीक है. And of course this meets once a year. This is a annual affair basically. So every year this meets. That's why India is going to chair the next year's meeting. That is from 1st January 2023. The India is having the chairmanship of this Wassenaar arrangement for the complete 1 year. Now importance क्या is chairmanship की? What India would achieve through this chairmanship? This becomes important. So what we can achieve through this chairmanship? What India could achieve? Number one, we can bolster, you can say, or you can give a fillip to our efforts towards terrorism or anti-terrorism efforts जो है उसको एक boost मिल सकती है इससे. Fine. How? Because जो timings है chairmanship की ये coincide करती है with the recent you can say increase in our efforts towards anti-terrorism. अब इस point को आप link कर सकते हो UNSC की chairmanship से, because दिस मंथ वी हैव दिस मंथली चेयरमैनशिप वहाँ पे रोटेट करती है यूएनएससी यूनाइटेड नेशन सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल वी सी दैट टॉपिक एज वेल सो दैट इज कुड बी लिंक कि हाँ वहाँ पे भी इंडिया चेयरमैन है यहाँ पे भी चेयरमैनशिप है सो ऑब्वियसली दिस वुड गिव अ फिलिप टू आवर एफर्ट्स टूवर्ड्स दिस एंटी टेररिज्म। उसके बाद जो सेकंड एक वो है tool or step that could be related to we can prevent the diversion of arms ammunition to the terrorist or even the terrorist financing. You can see, I mean you can understand we are talking about which country, ठीक है। उसके बाद हम I mean we could also have a strong anti-proliferation framework जिसमें कि जो भी आर्म्स हैं जो भी कन्वेंशनल आर्म्स हैं या particularly you can see that in our immediate neighborhood in the western side of India, west में हमारे north west में you can say we have certain neighbors where the situation is not you can say stable you can say or not security के or strategically situation is not that good, so of course we can strengthen and even we can come up with the new framework, you know, we can come up with a new framework to check the financing of terrorism by certain countries, fine. So India can of course advance a new framework or provide a new framework, in fact propose a new framework. उसके बाद democratization हो सकती है, we can talk about the democratization of space and defense technologies as well, ठीक है। इसमें क्या है कि एक्सेस जो है टेक्नोलॉजीज़ की वो सारी कंट्रीज़ को मिले, ठीक है, जो भी पीसफुली उसको यूज़ कर सकती हैं एंड which could serve as a crucial you can say building blocks of emerging threats or defense, even कि मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर्स भी इंडिया स्पेस मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर्स है इंडिया की, उससे भी रिलेटेड हम बात कर सकते हैं, ठीक है। उसके बाद we can also see that now we are under Make in India and all, we have started manufacturing the defense products as well. So even India, since we have abundance of labor, so low cost producer हम बन सकते हैं in several items जो कि Wassenaar arrangement की control list में आती है, ठीक है। Alongside that, important cue from here for prelims is that we need to keep in mind that India is a part of which group and India is not part of the which ones, ठीक है। So India is indeed part of Wassenaar arrangement. Now we have certain more groups like I was talking about NSG, that is nuclear supplier group. Remember this is a 48 member block, ठीक है। ये बना ही था in response to the operation Buddha, Buddha smile basically, that is the first test done by India in field of what operation smiling Buddha is related to what? Testing of nuclear warheads, ठीक है। nuclear you can say this warheads in 1974 I think, yes. So NSG इंडिया के उस टेस्ट के रिस्पॉन्स में बना था basically this body. Currently it has 48 members. India is trying to become the member of this because this is a nuclear suppliers group, ठीक है। इसमें है basically कि कौन सी country, I mean those who are having the nuclear nuclear power countries can supply their material to which countries, ठीक है। So by becoming the member I think it would be in our favor, nuclear supplier groups, ठीक है। So we are trying to become the member, but again one obstructionist player in this group is China. China is scuttling our this you can say the efforts becoming the member of this group, because what the China's point is कि इंडिया ने NPT साइन नहीं किया, that is non proliferation treaty, non proliferation treaty की जिसके पास आर्म्स न्यूक्लियर वॉर्ड्स नहीं हो उसको हम you can say proliferate नहीं करेंगे, नॉन प्रोलिफरेशन ट्रीटी। हमने ऐसे अपने आप को बांध नहीं लिया किसी ट्रीटी के अंडर कि हम हाँ जी सप्लाई नहीं करेंगे किसी को, ज़रूरत पड़ी तो हम आई मीन वी कैन ट्रेड, यू कैन से एक्सपोर्ट इम्पोर्ट हम कर सकते हैं. सो दैट्स व्हाई वी हैव नॉट signed this particular NPT. So China is saying that this is I mean, since India is not a signatory to the non-proliferation treaty, then India cannot be the member of NSG. This is one of the points of China. Then China again trying to bring Pakistan here, which is totally invalid, you know. चलो इसको तो एक to certain extent this can be valid, but this cannot be validated because Pakistan India के you know this aspect में you can say कि comparison नहीं हो सकती. One is quite unstable country, the other is peace loving country, you can say. So of course this is you know a big difference which cannot be compared. So this is NSG. NSG का इंडिया मेंबर नहीं है. वासेनार अरेंजमेंट का मेंबर इंडिया है. प्रीलिम्स के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट होते हैं, स्टेटमेंट्स आपको आ जाते हैं वहाँ पे, फिर पता नहीं लगता कौन किसके मेंबर हैं किसके नहीं हैं. सो दिस आर टू ग्रुप्स हो गए हमारे को. तीसरा हम डिस्कस करते हैं अगेन ऑस्ट्रेलियन ग्रुप. सो अगेन इसके ऑस्ट्रेलियन ग्रुप का क्या फंक्शन है? एनएसजी का क्या था? दैट इज अ कंट्रोल ऑफ न्यूक्लियर रिलेटेड टेक्नोलॉजी, कि न्यूक्लियर सप्लायर्स ग्रुप्स और न्यूक्लियर रिलेटेड जो भी टेक्नोलॉजीज हैं उसको प्रोलिफरेट नहीं करेंगे, दूसरे देश को नहीं बेचेंगे और देंगे. ठीक है. सो दिस इज व्हाट द फंक्शन ऑफ ग्रुप. 48 मेंबर्स हैं. ठीक है. 1974 में इट वाज एस्टैब्लिश्ड इन रिस्पॉन्स टू इंडियाज ऑपरेशन स्माइलिंग बुद्धा. That is the testing of the nuclear warheads. The first testing. Second was done in Pokhran 1998. Fine. So NSG हो गया, उसके मेंबर नहीं है. वासेना अरेंजमेंट वी हैव डिस्कस इन डिटेल, हम हैं उसके मेंबर. देन ऑस्ट्रेलियन ग्रुप, यस वी आर द मेंबर ऑफ दिस ऑस्ट्रेलियन ग्रुप. अगेन दिस इज रिलेटेड टू द सेम एक्सपोर्ट कंट्रोल regime. We'll talk about it. So it has 43 members and we are the 43rd ones, became the member of this group in 2018. So again we are group member of this. Remember हम इसके ग्रुप सिर्फ इसके NSG के नहीं है. ठीक है. एज फार एज जो 4-5 हम ग्रुप्स देखेंगे उसमें से सिर्फ NSG के मेंबर नहीं है, बाकी ऑलमोस्ट सबके हैं. सो वी बिकेम द 43rd मेंबर ऑफ दिस ऑस्ट्रेलियन ग्रुप इन 2018 इटसेल्फ. ठीक है. सो अगेन ऑस्ट्रेलियन ग्रुप जो है दिस इज बेसिकली दिस केम इनटू एग्जिस्टेंस इन द बैकड्रॉप ऑफ दिस इराक वॉर. इराक में जो सदाम हुसैन एंड ऑल. So at that time it was you know this was quite you know in news, or of course you can say this came in backdrop of that the Iraq has used the chemical weapons. So this is basically this Australian group is particularly meant for controlling the what? Chemical weapons, control of chemical and biological technologies that could be weaponized. ठीक है. So chemical and biological, that is like coronavirus. So biologically आप you know viruses पैदा कर सकते हो and you can use it as a tool. I'm not you know leveling any kind of allegation that it was a biological weapon, but just giving an example that these could be the biological examples. जैसे आपने कोई लैब में डेवलप कर लिया वायरस को एंड आपने अपनी एडवर्सरी कंट्री जो भी है उसमें स्प्रेड कर दिया. सो ऑफ कोर्स दिस कुड बी अ बायोलॉजिकल टूल और टेक्नोलॉजी. ठीक है. दैट कैन बी वेपनाइज्ड. सो दिस चेक्स, ऑस्ट्रेलियन ग्रुप बेसिकली चेक्स द प्रोलिफरेशन ऑफ केमिकल एंड व्हाट? केमिकल एंड बायोलॉजिकल वेपन्स. उसके बाद MTCR, मिसाइल टेक्नोलॉजी कंट्रोल रेजीम. MTCR is your fourth one is MTCR, Missile Technology Control Regime. India became, again India is a member of this body and became 35th member of this block MTCR in the year 2016. ठीक है. 2016 में हम इसके 35वां मेंबर बने. किसके? मिसाइल टेक्नोलॉजी कंट्रोल रेजीम के. ठीक है. सो एज द नेम सजेस्ट मिसाइल टेक्नोलॉजी को कंट्रोल करता है. ठीक है. सो it basically controls the rockets and other aerial vehicles, UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles capable of delivering weapons of mass destruction. जैसे आप सुनते हो ना कि ड्रोन से पाकिस्तान ने हमारे यहाँ इंडिया में you know कुछ गिरा गए. So again this could be used as a weapon of you know used as a tool for delivering certain weapons. It could be related to mass destruction as well. ठीक है. So this regime basically controls the missile or the rockets. Fine. So as far as this topic is concerned, we have discussed ठीक है, इंडियाज मेंबरशिप, ऑफ कोर्स इंडियाज मेंबर है MTCR के. देन okay, so this is all about as far as this nuclear related or weapons related, or you can say this export control regimes, as far as export control regimes related to the weapons or conventional arms are concerned. ठीक है, so far whatever we have discussed 4 5, remember only India is not a member of NSG, but we are trying to get the membership of this body, provided China don't have any reservation. China doesn't have any reservation, but indeed China is scuttling our efforts so far. So the next topic is the presidency of India at UNSC. That is UNSC presidency. UNSC presidency. ठीक है. So as I mentioned in the previous this कि UNSC के क्या है जो स्ट्रक्चर है, that is 5 परमानेंट मेंबर्स हैं जिसको हम P5 बोलते हैं, प्लस 10 नॉन परमानेंट मेंबर्स हैं. ठीक है, 10 नॉन परमानेंट मेंबर्स. ठीक है जी, ये 15 मेंबर्स हैं, इनके बीच में जो चेयरमैनशिप है वो रोटेट होती है. ठीक है, मंथली, रिमेंबर नॉट एनुअली बट मंथली. So every month a new member takes the chair of this chairmanship of this particular United Nations Security Council, the most powerful body you can say, or you can say the most, you can say most what abused, you can say the body, or most you can say the body which rather used lesser for the world's जो इसकी mandate है, that is world's peace and security, and more for fulfilling on or serving on interest of the P5 members. Basically we'll see क्या issues हैं. So far this is clear कि there are total 15 members, chairmanship rotates on the monthly basis, and India is chairman of this president of UNSC for the month of December. Even we were a member of this, we chaired this meeting of UNSC the last year August as well. ठीक है, so this is the second time because India has been elected for the 8th time. चलो इंडिया की अलग से बात करते हैं. So as far as India and UNSC is concerned, firstly UNSC की बात बता दूं. So UNSC is basically one of six principal organs of United Nations. Principal organs of United Nations, UN. ठीक है, this particular UNSC, United Nations Security Council, is one of the 6 principal organs of United Nations. It came into existence in 1945. ठीक है, it came into existence in the year 1945. ठीक है, मैंडेट जो है इसका वही है वर्ल्ड पीस एंड सिक्योरिटी. ठीक है, 5 परमानेंट मेंबर्स हैं, वी हैव डिस्कस्ड 10 नॉन परमानेंट मेंबर्स. दे आर इलेक्टेड फॉर द 2 years. ठीक है, 2 years की मैक्सिमम टेन्योर होती है. नॉन इलेक्टेड जो 10 मेंबर्स हैं उनकी, ठीक है, दे आर इलेक्टेड फ्रॉम डिफरेंट कॉन्टिनेंट्स, विल सी दैट एज वेल. ठीक है, सो 2 years की इनकी टेन्योर होती है इनकी नॉन परमानेंट मेंबर्स की. इंडिया की मेंबर जो नॉन परमानेंट मेंबर्स की जो टेन्योर थी, दैट वाज इलेक्टेड फॉर द ईयर 2021 and 22 in the year, and this election was for the 8th time. Remember, 8th time, not presidency but 8th time elected. ठीक है, since now we have been elected to this particular UNSC 8th time in total. ठीक है, so this was the 8th time election of India, and in 2021, in August 2021 rather, we had this presidentship of this particular one of the most important bodies of the world, UNSC. And now in December 2022 we have again the monthly presidentship of this body. ठीक है, चलो. Why I am saying this is the most powerful body of the world? the mandate is to maintain peace and security of the world. Peace and security, which we can better see today, where it stands. Peace and security की आज धज्जियाँ उड़ा रखी हैं. You can see जिनकी those who are responsible for maintaining peace and security are themselves responsible for not maintaining the same. So free 5 members कौन कौन से हैं? I hope you are aware. Firstly US, UK, you can say, then France, China of course, and then one more, that is कौन है? US, UK, France, China and बताओ and जिससे दुश्मनी है, that is रशिया. तभी तो ये कुछ कर नहीं पा रहे हैं बिकॉज यूएनएससी में एक कॉन्सेप्ट है, दैट इज वीटो पावर. वीटो पावर मीन्स कोई भी मुद्दा अगर डिस्कस हो रहा है और उस पर 4 ने यस कह दिया एंड 1 ने नो कह दिया, इट मीन्स दिस प्रपोजल वुड बी नो. अगर 1 ने भी नो कह दिया मीन्स नो. ठीक है, दिस इज कॉल्ड वीटो पावर. ठीक है, सो अगर 2 प्लेयर्स, इसीलिए आज यूएनएससी एक ब्लॉक में बढ़ चुका है, लाइक द 3 countries which are adversaries to each other, US, China and Russia. ठीक है, यू कैन सी कि जहाँ यूएस होगा वहाँ पे यूके भी होगा, वहीं पे फ्रांस भी होगा. सो 3 + 2, 3 versus 2 यू कैन सी. ठीक है, सो यही चल रहा है यहाँ पे. दिस बॉडी हैज़ बीन रादर you can say polarized to such a level where peace and security is taken for granted now. ठीक है, सो ये लेवल हो चुका है पोलराइजेशन की. हम अपने देश में बात करते हैं पोलराइजेशन की. यू कैन सी की पोलराइजेशन कहीं भी हो सकती है फॉर गार्डिंग ओन इंटरेस्ट, सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट. ठीक है, सो दिस इज द करंट सिनेरियो. चलो, UNSC I was telling about कि it is a most powerful body. You can see कि most powerful क्यों है, क्योंकि top 5 countries जो हैं, you can see members हैं इसके, plus veto power है. Alongside that UNSC जो important role है United Nations के जो Secretary General होते हैं, कौन है अभी? Secretary General. उनकी इलेक्शन जो होती है दैट रिक्वायर्स द अप्रूवल ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर यूएनएससी. रिमेंबर, सो दैट्स व्हाई इट इज अगेन दैट्स व्हाई इट इज मोस्ट पावरफुल, बिकॉज यूएन सेक्रेटरी जनरल जो बनते हैं उनकी रिकमेंडेशन इस बॉडी के थ्रू ही होती है. अनलेस एंड दिस बॉडी नॉट रिकमेंडिंग द नेम ऑफ द पर्सन हु इज गोइंग टू बी द नेक्स्ट और द सेक्रेटरी जनरल ऑफ यूनाइटेड नेशंस, दैट पर्सन कैन नॉट बिकम द सेक्रेटरी जनरल ऑफ यूनाइटेड नेशंस जनरल असेंबली, यूएनजीए. ठीक है, कंपोजिशन की हम बात कर चुके हैं. 5 परमानेंट, 10 नॉन परमानेंट. यस, आई वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट कि कॉन्टिनेंट वाइज. सो 10 नॉन परमानेंट मेंबर्स जो हैं, 10 नॉन परमानेंट मेंबर्स, रिमेंबर ये कॉन्टिनेंट वाइज हैं. कैसे? इसमें 2 आपके मेंबर्स इलेक्ट होंगे फ्रॉम अफ्रीकन कॉन्टिनेंट, अफ्रीकन कॉन्टिनेंट. ठीक है, 2 आपके इलेक्ट होंगे इसमें फ्रॉम वेस्ट यूरोप. ठीक है, 1 वुड बी इलेक्टेड फ्रॉम रादर, अगर हम इसको क्लब कर दें तो अफ्रीकन प्लस एशियन, नॉट 2 बट रादर अगर दोनों को हम क्लब कर दें तो ये आपके हो जाते हैं 5. ठीक है, सो 5 + 7 = 8. सो 5 आपके अफ्रीका प्लस एशिया रीजन से कॉन्टिनेंट से होने चाहिए, 2 आपके वेस्ट यूरोप से होने चाहिए, 1 मेंबर होना चाहिए आपका ईस्ट यूरोप से, ईस्टर्न यूरोपियन कंट्री कोई भी हो सकती है डिपेंडिंग ऑन द इलेक्शन. ठीक है, एंड जनरल कंसेंसस. ठीक है, 5 2 7 8 हो गए. अगेन 2 फ्रॉम लैटिन अमेरिकन और यू कैन से साउथ अमेरिका, 2 लैटिन अमेरिकन. ठीक है, एंड रिमेनिंग 1 हो गए 7 8 10 हो गए. हाँ, सो 2 फ्रॉम साउथ और लैटिन अमेरिका. सो दिस इज द सिनेरियो फ्रॉम, आई मीन ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ विच दे गेट the members get elected to the UNSC, ठीक है, as non-permanent members. Fine. चलो, so 5 + 10. इंडिया की मेंबरशिप की हम बात कर चुके हैं कि इंडिया हैज ऑलरेडी सर्व 7 times in the council as non-permanent elected member in the past, and this is the 8th time membership, or the you can say 8th time yes membership of this or being elected to this powerful body. ठीक है, वोटिंग पावर्स क्या है इस यूएनएससी के अंडर? तो वोटिंग पावर की हम बात कर चुके हैं। यूएनएससी में क्या है कि अब वोटिंग पावर भी डिवाइडेड है बिटवीन 2 sets ऑफ परमानेंट मेंबर्स एंड नॉन परमानेंट मेंबर्स। परमानेंट की हम बात कर चुके हैं वीटो पावर की, नॉन परमानेंट मेंबर्स। सो ईच पार्टी हैज 1 vote, each member has 1 vote, ठीक है, 1:1, ठीक है। बट परमानेंट मेंबर्स हैव एडिशनल, दैट इज वीटो पावर। जैसे अभी रशिया के ऊपर कोई डिस्कशन होनी हो तो रशिया वीटो कर देगा इस प्रपोजल को, सो वो प्रपोजल पास नहीं हो पाएगा, ठीक है। उसके बाद रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज, ऑफ कोर्स वी हैव डिस्कस द सेम थिंग, दैट इज पीस एंड सिक्योरिटी। मीडिएशन करना 2 अपोजिंग ग्रुप्स के बीच, जैसे यूक्रेन और रशिया के बीच में चल रहा है, तो अब कोई मीडिएट भी नहीं कर सकता बिकॉज रशिया इटसेल्फ इज अ परमानेंट मेंबर, वो तो वीटो कर देगा। सो कोई सोल्यूशन वहाँ से इसलिए नहीं आ पा रहा है, ठीक है। उसके बाद एक इम्पॉर्टेंट पीस कीपिंग ऑपरेशंस होती हैं जिसमें कंट्रीज अपने सोल्जर्स भेजते हैं, जैसे इंडिया भी भेजते हैं पीस कीपिंग मिशंस में, ठीक। ओके, सो इंडियाज मेंबरशिप क्लियर, कॉम्पोजिशन क्लियर, यूएनएससी क्या है ये क्लियर हो गया, ठीक है। लास्ट में हम आएंगे कि इंडिया की जो प्रेसिडेंटशिप, चलो अब हम इसी की बात कर लेते हैं कि इंडिया की जो प्रेसिडेंटशिप है इसमें क्या इंपॉर्टेंट इवेंट्स हमारे को देखने को मिल सकते हैं। सो आई वाज ड्राइंग अ पैरेलल बिटवीन योर लिंकिंग दिस टॉपिक विद द वासना दिस अरेंजमेंट जो है उसकी प्रेसिडेंटशिप से। सो दैट वाज अ कॉमन पॉइंट कि काउंटर टेररिज्म तो दोनों जगह ही आएगा, बिकॉज टेररिज्म टॉपिक तो जहाँ भी पीस और सिक्योरिटी की बात करेंगे वहाँ पे इनहेरेंटली आ ही जाएगा। सो फर्स्ट इज इवेंट जो इंडिया की प्रेसिडेंटशिप में हमें देखने को मिल सकता है, दैट इज सिंस द वर्ल्ड इज टॉकिंग अबाउट of course we are talking about reformed multilateralism. Reformed, I have told you about the situation of UNSC, so we want reform in such multilateral groups. Multilateralism, bilateral is basically between 2 countries. Multilateralism when more than 2 countries are participating in any body or decision making forum. So reformed multilateralism because India under its presidentship is going to have such events, or India is going to hold rather a high level meetings, you can say, or debate on maintenance of since India has been since time immemorial advocate of peace, fine. So India is going to hold a debate on मेंटेनेंस ऑफ इंटरनेशनल पीस एंड सिक्योरिटी, जो कि मैंडेट पीस एंड सिक्योरिटी है पर्टिकुलर यूएनएससी की। सो वी आर गोइंग टू होल्ड अ डिबेट ऑन दिस मेंटेनेंस ऑफ इंटरनेशनल पीस एंड सिक्योरिटी इन द बैकड्रॉप ऑफ द यू कैन से दिस यूक्रेन रशिया कन्फ्लिक्ट, ठीक है। एंड इसका जो थीम है, जो जो टॉपिक है, दैट इज debate on maintenance of international peace and security, that further new orientation, क्योंकि नई प्रॉब्लम्स को न्यू तरीके से ठीक की जा सकती है, पुरानी हमने टूल्स यूज़ कर चुके हैं, उससे कोई सोल्यूशन नहीं निकल रहा। सो वी नीड न्यू ओरिएंटेशन for this is going to be the topic for debate, new orientation under India's presidency, new orientation for reformed multilateralism, and we call it norms. न्यू ओरिएंटेशन फॉर रिफॉर्म मल्टीलेटरलिज्म, दैट इज नॉर्म्स. ठीक है. ठीक है. सो नॉर्म्स जो है दिस इज नॉट एक्सक्लूसिवली फोकसिंग ओनली ऑन यूएनएससी, बट रादर वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट द रिफॉर्मिंग multilateral groups or multilateralism in general and UNSC in particular. So norms basically envisage करता है to reform what the current multilateral architecture, current multilateral architectural. ठीक है, encompassing not just UNSC but United Nation as a whole, United Nation body as a whole. ठीक है, and its different organs as well, reforming them as well. उसके बाद जो सेकेंड टॉपिक होगा हमारा, दैट वुड बी क्वाइट सिग्निफिकेंट, बिकॉज लास्ट जो हमारी प्रीवियस प्रेसिडेंटशिप थी लास्ट ईयर इन अगस्त 2021, वहाँ पे भी हमने बात की थी इस चीज़ की, बिकॉज दैट टाइम अफगानिस्तान वॉज वन ऑफ द हॉट टॉपिक्स. ठीक है, तालिबान एंड ऑल. सो ऑफ कोर्स वी आर गोइंग टू कैरी फॉरवर्ड दैट topic, and after this reformed multilateralism, the second event that would be held under this India's presidentship, and that would be related to our what, counter terrorism, that would be related to counter terrorism or combating terrorism, you can say counter terrorism, because again this is a global problem phenomena, not just the India is suffering or any particular country is suffering, but the whole world is under the grip of terrorism. ठीक है. So this is again one of the important topics. Again high level इस पे एक briefing होगी. India will present its point of view or brief the world. ठीक है, on the theme जो है that is important for, again it will of course involve peace and security. अगर हम terrorism की बात करते थे तो वहाँ पे भी peace and security तो necessary है. So थीम जो है दैट इज थ्रेट्स टू इंटरनेशनल पीस एंड सिक्योरिटी caused by terrorist acts, colon global approach to counter terrorism, global approach to counter terrorism, global approach to counter terrorism. ठीक है. Challenges, we are not just going to highlight the problems, but rather we are going to provide the solution as well. Challenges and way forward, that what would be the solutions as well. So India will present its viewpoint or brief the world about what India thinks on this topic, that is counter terrorism. ठीक है. So in nutshell we can say that yes, this underscores the need of the time and the need for collective and coordinated efforts towards countering this menace of what, terrorism. Fine. So this is going to be the, now after discussing all this, the most important topic we are left to discuss about the UNSC is the issues, the current issues क्या हैं with this UNSC, why we need to reform this body. कुछ तो प्रॉब्लम्स होगी तभी हम रिफॉर्म्स की बात कर रहे हैं. सो द इश्यूज रिलेटेड टू और इश्यूज विद UNSC. Number 1, it has already lost its relevance. Why so? And it can be better stated in terms of our you can say one of the skillful master strategists or our honorable external affairs minister Shri S. Jaishankar. So what he says, he said that UNSC has narrow leadership, and a need for a new approach. He stressed upon a need for new approach, and therefore he called to push for the refresh button. He called to push for the refresh button. That is reform. ठीक है. These are the wordings of our honorable this external affairs minister श्री जयशंकर. उसके बाद लैक ऑफ मल्टीलेटरलिज्म. वैसे तो हम कहते हैं कि दिस बॉडी इज मेंट फॉर मल्टीलेटरल इश्यूज, बट मल्टीलेटरलिज्म है कहाँ? यू हैव सीन कि 5 में से 2 ब्लॉक्स बन चुके हैं, 3 वर्सेस 2, है ना? रशिया चाइना वन साइड, फ्रांस यूके यूएस वन साइड. सो more of this has become more of a block than a multilateral fora or body. So that's why again need to be reformed. एंड इसकी ऑफ कोर्स इसकी अगर मल्टीलेटरिज्म के एस्पेक्ट में अगर हम बात करते हैं कि लैक ऑफ मल्टीलेटरिज्म क्यों है, सो अगेन वी कैन ऑल्सो एम्फेसाइज दिस इट्स सिग्निफिकेंस और यू कैन से इट्स इम्पोर्टेंस that it has been criticized in handling, you can say, the Russia-Ukraine war. Also, it has been criticized for handling the global pandemic, that is coronavirus, COVID-19. I mean, its approach was quite lackadaisical. So that's why we see the prolonging of this Ukraine and Russia war. उसके बाद, this is not, you can say a democratic in its structure, or you can say this is not a democratic body because representation नहीं है सबकी. Why I am saying that? Because African continent की अगर हम बात करें तो African continent having how much countries? Around there are 54 countries, but Africa से कोई member नहीं है permanent. There is no single country which is a permanent member of this, holding the permanent membership of this UNSC. So again, this is one of the plights, matter of concern. How we can say that we have democratic representation or democratic setup? Not at all, because one you cannot neglect one of the biggest continents. ठीक है. उसके बाद misuse of veto power. Of course, misuse of veto power I have already explained कि जब 2 ब्लॉक्स बनी गई हैं तो उसमें जिसका इंटरेस्ट फुलफिल होता है, जहाँ पे इंटरेस्ट गार्ड करना हो, सेफ गार्ड करना हो, उसके हिसाब से वीटो पावर यूज़ होती है, ना कि सिर्फ 5 कंट्रीज अपने हिसाब से वीटो पावर को यूज़ करती है, ना कि टेकिंग इनटू कंसिडरेशन द वर्ल्ड अफेयर्स. ठीक है. सो दिस अगेन द वीटो पावर की जो एक्सरसाइज है और कंसेप्ट है, दिस हैज़ बीन क्रिटिसाइज्ड एंड मेनी एक्सपर्ट्स कॉल इट अ सेल्फ चोजन क्लब ऑफ द प्रिविलेज्ड. Self-chosen club of the privileged. Self-chosen club or club of the privileged. In simple, you can say club of the privileged. ठीक है. नॉन डेमोक्रेटिक भी है. क्यों? पहली बात की रिप्रेजेंटेशन नहीं है सारी कॉन्टिनेंट्स को. सेकेंडली, not allowing the council to make necessary decisions if that decision affects either of the 5 permanent members, because then they can veto, and even if one member is vetoing the using the veto power, then that matter or that proposal would be thrown in the dustbin instead of thinking about passing of that proposal. ठीक है. We have already discussed about the 3 poles or the 3 blocks kind of things we see recently, Russia, Ukraine, this US and China. ठीक है. So in conclusion, we can say that there is the urgent need for reforming this particular this one of the most influential bodies of the world, that is United Nations Security Council. So we need urgent course correction. Fine. As far as the power of imbalance or power mechanism of this P5 or the permanent 5 members of this UNSC is concerned. ठीक है. So now one interesting fact that we India time and again is advocating, or our focus is to get the membership, the permanent membership of this body. Now on what basis we are claiming? At least we should have certain grounds on what the ground we are claiming to be the permanent member of this body. Permanent membership of UNSC. Firstly, remember there is a group of 4 countries, G4 जिसको हम बोलते हैं collectively, where we have Brazil, then we have India, India, we have Germany and Japan. These 4 countries are supporting each other's claim to become the permanent members. In nutshell, you can say that all these 4 countries wants to be the permanent members of this United Nations Security Council. First thing, G4 remember कि कौन सी 4 countries हैं, because इनके अपोजिशन में भी countries हैं, वो भी important है, ठीक है. Now किस ग्राउंड पे हम क्लेम कर रहे हैं मेंबर्स बनने के? So first ground तो ये है कि we have served around 7 times, rather including this year, I mean this 2021-22 election. So we have served for the 8 times as non-permanent members. Fine. So this somewhere, you know, strengthen our claim that we had been, you know, the 8-time members. It means we have been there on in this group as a non-permanent members for the 16 years, 2 years tenure for the 8 times, total of 16 years. And we have a good track record as well. How? We have in, you know, India is one of the leading, you know, this country which sends its troops in peacekeeping operations. जैसे कहीं सीरिया में कोई इशू चल रहा है, अफगानिस्तान में कोई इशूज़ हैं, सो वहाँ पे पीस कीपिंग मिशन भेजती है यूएनएससी. उसमें डिफरेंट कंट्रीज़ के सोल्जर्स होते हैं. इवन कि जो लीड करते हैं उस मिशन को वो भी हमारी कंट्री से भी रहे हैं. सो लीड भी कर सकते हैं उस पर्टिकुलर पीस कीपिंग मिशंस को. ठीक है, नाम ही है पीस कीपिंग कि पीस को इस्टेब्लिश करना है इन सर्टेन डिस्टर्ब एरियाज. उसके बाद एक्टिव पार्टिसिपेशन हमारी रहती है किसमें? इन फॉर्मुलेटिंग ह्यूमन राइट्स डिक्लेरेशन. ठीक है, सो वी आर एडवोकेट ऑफ, बिगेस्ट थिंग इज कि वी आर एडवोकेट ऑफ पीस, सिक्योरिटी एंड बिलीव द प्रैक्टिशनर ऑफ ह्यूमन राइट्स वैल्यूज़. उसके बाद इकोनॉमिकली अगर हम बात करें, सो फार अगर कंट्री की बात करें तो वी आर वन ऑफ द लीडिंग, यू नो, एंड certainly next year we would be the highest one of this populated country of the world. Then territorial size की अगर हम बात करें, of course उसके बाद अगर हम GDP की भी बात करें तो certainly we are going to become the world's third largest economy in the world by certainly 25 or of course 25, 27. ठीक है, because we are one of the fastest growing economy in the world. So of course from economic point of view as well, then politically as well we have a democratic set of government. Fine, we have a democratic setup. So again that is boosts our credentials and boosts our claims, strengthen our claims to become the permanent members of this United Nations Security Council. Alongside that we have cultural diversity as well. ठीक है, economic potential तो है ही है. Fine. So this is about our claims. Now issue is कि G4 countries का, that's why I was emphasizing, G4 countries जो ये permanent membership सीख कर रही हैं, claim कर रही हैं, इसके opposition में कुछ countries हैं, उनको हम कहते हैं what? Coffee Club, और other name is Uniting for Consensus Movement, UPSC. ठीक है, either we call them Uniting for Consensus Movement, UPSC, or we call them Coffee Club. कॉफ़ी पीने के लिए बनी है कॉफ़ी क्लब. ठीक है, वन एंड सेम थिंग. इम्पॉर्टेंट है क्योंकि जब भी बात दिस परमानेंट मेंबरशिप की आएगी, बिकॉज व्हाट यू वांट द अपोजिट मेंबर वुड, आई मीन द अदर पर्सन इज अपोजिंग योर मूव. ठीक है, सो दिस आर द अपोजिशन. आप यहाँ से अंदाज़ा लगा सकते हो, यू कैन गेस कि विच कंट्रीज वुड बी अपोजिंग देयर permanent membership. So that's why these are basically the group of countries which are opposing the G4 claim to become the permanent members. ठीक है, इनफॉर्मली हम इनको कॉफी क्लब बोलते हैं, फॉर्मली दे आर नोन एज UPSC, that is Uniting for Consensus Movement. चलो, so इसमें कंट्रीज अपोज जो कर रही हैं एक्सपेंशन ऑफ परमानेंट सीट्स ऑफ यूएनएससी एंड प्राइम मूवर्स अगर हम बात करें तो कौन है? सो दिस इज इजी टू गेस। इंडिया को कौन अपोज करेगा? ऑफ कोर्स पाकिस्तान, ठीक है। जापान को कौन कर रहा है? ऑफ कोर्स ऑस्ट्रेलिया। अपने पड़ोसी करेंगे, बाहर वाले तो करेंगे नहीं। ब्राज़ील, ऑफ कोर्स ब्राज़ील को कौन करेगा? अर्जेंटीना, नॉट मेसी, मेसी नहीं, अर्जेंटीना एज ए कंट्री, ठीक है। सो अर्जेंटीना इज अपोजिंग द बिड और मूव ऑफ दिस ब्राज़ील। अलोंगसाइड दैट पाकिस्तान अपोज कर रहा है इंडिया की बिड को, एंड जापान की ऑस्ट्रेलिया, एंड जर्मनी की जो मूव है और जो क्लेम है उसको अपोज कर रहे हैं। कौन कौन सी 2 कंट्रीज हैं इसके नेबर अगेन? इटली एंड स्पेन, इटली एंड स्पेन। सो आई होप यू आर क्लियर विथ कि कौन सी मेंबर्स इस पर्टिकुलर क्लब के हैं। ऑफ कोर्स जो अपोज करें वही होंगे। सो 2, 3, 4 और 5 मेंबर्स हैं इसके कॉफ़ी क्लब के, ठीक है। कनाडा भी है इसमें इन्वॉल्व, साउथ कोरिया भी है, ठीक है। बट सारी कंट्रीज अपोज नहीं करती ना, किसी किसी से हमारे रिलेशन अच्छे भी हो सकते हैं, है ना। सो इन दैट केस these are the countries which are quite vocal about the or they are against the expansion of the permanent seats or the permanent membership of the United Nations Security Council, ठीक है। ठीक है, so I think we have covered almost every aspect of this United Nations Security Council topic as far as this topic is concerned. Fine. So this is all about this topic. So if you have any issue, anything you could not understand, let me know. Yes. Anything, any issue so far? Yes, anybody? Anywhere, I mean whatever topics we have discussed, any issue, कुछ समझना है हो कहीं? Yes? है तो बताओ, नहीं है तो भी बताओ, yes or no? नहीं है? चलो नहीं है तो अच्छी बात है, देन वी कैन कॉल ऑफ द डे। ओके देन वी विल स्टॉप हियर फॉर द डे, ठीक है।